Hello, I'm the Engine Inspector, and I'd like to say a few words about the American narration of the TV series. Now, we all know that when Thomas the Tank Engine first aired on Shining Time Station in the US, Britt Allcroft changed the terms trucks to cars, goods to freight, and so on in order to use terminology that the new target audience would be familiar with. Now, this is understandable, but Britt Allcroft also changed the titles of numerous stories when they were released in America. Thomas and Gordon became Thomas Gets Tricked, The Sad Story of Henry became Come Out Henry, and so on and so forth throughout the first few seasons. This has always struck me as strange, as there was really no reason to do this when the titles didn't mention trucks or the Fat Controller. But I'm not here to talk about those episodes. I'm here to talk about the one episode that was completely rewritten just to coincide with the Shining Time Station episode. I'm of course talking about Thomas and Percy's Mountain Adventure. The episode, originally titled Thomas and Percy's Christmas Adventure in the UK, centered around Thomas and Percy trying to provide food for Christmas dinner to villagers stranded by a snowstorm. When the episode aired on the Shining Time Station episode Billy's Party in 1993, it focused on Thanksgiving rather than Christmas to fit the Thanksgiving theme of the Shining Time Station episode. So let's see just how strange this episode got due to the rewrite. This is Thomas and Percy's Mountain Adventure.
If someday you should see Thomas the Tank Engine puffing happily along the line, he may be on his way to a village nestled deep in the heart of the island of Sodor. One November morning, Thomas whistled to all his friends. "It's nearly Thanksgiving, and I'll bring you lots of letters and parcels."
And therein lies the biggest problem with this rewrite. Thanksgiving is an American holiday, and Sodor happens to be a British island with British engines. They wouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving on Sodor. It just doesn't make sense to have a Thanksgiving Thomas episode.
But then an early snowstorm came. The island was covered with thick snow.
Okay, I know I said the whole Thanksgiving thing was the major issue with this rewrite, but this is another big thing. It hardly ever snows that much in November in the UK. Heck, it hardly ever snows in November where I live, and I live in a place that's stereotypically very snowy.
Thomas and Percy were collecting important mail for Thanksgiving. "Driver says there's lots of mail for the village," said Thomas. "I'll need an extra car for it all." Percy was feeling left out. "It's not fair. You're not leaving any mail for me." But Percy's
Really?
chance had come.
Is Thomas going to take all the mail on the island? Will there really be none left for Percy? I'm calling BS on that one. It should be noted that BS stands for bad steamer in this context.
"Percy, you are to take Thomas's train to the village." Percy was delighted, but Thomas was sad. "I won't be able to say Happy Thanksgiving to all my friends."
That's right, because you live in Britain, and Thanksgiving is an American holiday. Everyone you know that celebrates Thanksgiving probably lives thousands of miles away.
Making good time on his way to the village when suddenly, "What's that?" called his driver. There ahead was a fog man by the line. He was holding a red light. "The village is cut off by the snow," he shouted. "We need snowplows, workmen, and a helicopter. Leave your cars in the sidings and go back quickly." Percy was soon steaming to Harold's airfield. "Beep, beep," whistled Percy. "Wake up, lazy wings. The mountain villagers need your help. They're stranded."
"I'm not going anywhere until you take back that lazy wing remark."
And he buzzed away. "Now," sighed Percy, "what's next?" Suddenly, there was Thomas with Terence the tractor and a works train. "Come on, Percy," whistled Thomas. "Follow me." The two engines battled their way through the snow. At last, they reached the village. Harold was already there, busily dropping food for Thanksgiving dinner to the people
Stop
below.
dropping turkeys! We have food! We don't even celebrate Thanksgiving!
Terence quickly got to work. "Lovely stuff," he said as he pushed the snow aside. "Well done, Percy! Well done, Thomas!" cheered the villagers. "Percy, I've just remembered. Your mail train is still back at the siding, isn't it?" Percy hurried back to fetch it.
Wait a sec. There's a huge chunk of dialogue missing there. Let's see what they said in the UK version.
Well done, Percy. Well done, Thomas, cheered the villagers. You're the best Santa Claus this village has ever had. What's a Santa Claus? Asked Percy. Santa Claus is someone who drops presents down chimneys at Christmas time. Percy looked at his funnel. I wonder if... No, laughed Thomas. Chimneys, Percy, not funnels. Which reminds me, your post train is still back in the siding, isn't it?
That is a brilliant little bit between Thomas and Percy. Why did they cut that?
It's nearly Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
Just then, Toby arrived with Henrietta. We've brought lots of hot drinks and food for the villagers, he whistled. That night, all the engines had gone back to the sheds, except Toby.
Did anyone just hear Percy whistle? That's because without that little bit of dialogue, the music and sound effects are way out of sync. Just listen.
The villagers had made a plan to thank the engines. They loaded paint pots and parcels into Henrietta, and then they set off through the moonlit countryside. All the engines were fast asleep in the sheds as Toby ran silently into the yard.
That's just lazy editing.
He had no idea what the villagers were going to do, but he knew it was going to be a big surprise. When the engines woke the next morning, they could not believe their eyes. The sheds had been repainted and decorated.
For Christmas? I thought this was a Thanksgiving episode.
The engines whistled in delight, and everyone agreed that it was a really happy Thanksgiving.
What is the point? What's the point of this episode? I understand wanting to make a Shining Time Station episode that's Thanksgiving themed because Shining Time Station is set in the United States, but does it really have to have an episode that's almost completely rewritten? There's plenty of pre-existing episodes that have themes of being thankful and grateful for the people and things around you. The Shining Time Station story wouldn't have suffered if they had just reused some old stories, and the US wouldn't have lost a great Christmas episode. Well, at least they didn't change the name of Christmas into some silly, generic, non-denominational holiday for the sake of political correctness. But that's another story. I'm the engine inspector, and brace yourselves. The winter holidays are coming.